Admiral HFY stood frozen on the bridge of the Imperial dreadnought Sovereign's Fist, his four eyes fixed on the holographic display that showed something impossible. The massive warship's sensors had detected an unknown vessel approaching the edge of Terran space, but this wasn't just any unregistered ship. This was something that made his scales crawl with unease. "Report," he commanded, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had conquered 17 star systems for the Empire. Lieutenant Commander Valeris, a young Xantaurian with promising tactical skills, manipulated the sensor controls with trembling tentacles. "Sir, the vessel appeared on our long-range sensors approximately 30 minutes ago. Initial scans show it's approximately 800 meters in length, but the strange part is—" "Speak freely, Commander. It's not in any of our databases, not Imperial, not from any known species in our records. The design is completely alien to anything we've encountered in 3 centuries of expansion." Admiral HFY moved closer to the display, studying the sleek lines of the mysterious craft. The Empire's database contained information on every spacefaring civilization they had encountered, conquered, or destroyed. To find a ship design that was completely unknown was disturbing. "Perhaps it's a new design from one of the Outer Rim colonies," suggested Commander Thaxis, the ship's chief tactical officer. "Some of the conquered species have been developing new technologies." "No," the Admiral's voice was firm. "I've seen every ship design from every species under Imperial rule. This is something else entirely." He paused, studying the smooth curves and angular sections that seemed to blend organic flow with geometric precision. "Have you attempted communication?" "Yes, sir. We've broadcasted on all known frequencies using standard Imperial protocols, as well as the common languages of known species." No response. The bridge fell silent except for the steady hum of the ship's massive engines. The Sovereign's Fist was one of the Empire's most powerful warships, designed to strike fear into the hearts of any who opposed Imperial will. Its crew had never encountered a situation where they couldn't identify a potential threat. "Sir?" Lieutenant Commander Valeris spoke up again. "There's something else. The ship's energy signature is unusual. Our sensors are detecting power levels that don't match any known propulsion system." Admiral HFY felt a chill run down his spine. "Explain." "The energy output suggests a propulsion system far more advanced than anything in Imperial technology. If our readings are correct, this vessel could outrun any ship in the Imperial fleet." The Admiral had spent 40 years serving the Empire, rising through the ranks by being cautious, calculating, and never underestimating an opponent. This unknown ship represented everything he had learned to fear, an unpredictable variable in a galaxy where the Empire's dominance was absolute. "Movement detected!" The sensor operator's voice cracked with tension. "The unknown vessel is changing course. It's heading directly for us." On the main display, the mysterious ship had indeed altered its trajectory. What had been a steady course toward the inner system was now a direct approach vector toward the Imperial fleet. "Battle stations," Admiral HFY commanded. "All ships, prepare for potential hostile contact." The bridge erupted into controlled chaos as crew members rushed to their positions. Warning klaxons echoed through the corridors of the massive dreadnought, and across the fleet, 12 other Imperial vessels prepared for what might be their first contact with a truly unknown enemy. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," reported the communications officer, a seasoned Veltani whose hearing was among the best in the Empire. "Put it through." The bridge speakers crackled with static. Then a voice emerged. It was speaking in perfect Imperial standard, the language used for official communications across the Empire. But there was something about the accent, the rhythm of the words, that seemed off. "Imperial Fleet, this is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth vessel, Endeavor. We are conducting a peaceful exploration mission in this sector. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions in Terran space. The entire bridge fell silent. Admiral HFY felt his blood turn cold. Earth? Terra? Those were names from the restricted archives, classified information that only the highest levels of Imperial command were allowed to access. "Did they say Earth?" whispered Commander Thaxis. Admiral HFY nodded grimly. According to the classified files he had access to, Earth was the homeworld of a species called humans. The planet had been marked for conquest over 50 years ago, but the invasion fleet had simply vanished. No distress signals, no reports, nothing. The Empire had assumed they had encountered some natural disaster and had marked the system as a low priority for future exploration. But if this ship was from Earth, if these were the humans that had somehow made an entire Imperial invasion fleet disappear, then they were facing something far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. "Sir, what are your orders?" asked Lieutenant Commander Valeris. Before the Admiral could respond, the sensor operator spoke up again, his voice tight with concern. "Sir, the unknown vessel, the Endeavor, it's accelerating." "How fast?" "Faster than should be possible, sir. According to our readings, it's already reaching speeds that would tear apart any Imperial vessel." Admiral HFY watched in growing alarm as the energy signatures on his displays climbed to levels that defied everything he knew about space travel. The mysterious human ship wasn't just fast, it was accelerating at rates that would kill any known species through sheer gravitational force. "Impossible," breathed Commander Thaxis. "No biological entity can survive those acceleration rates." But the ship continued to accelerate, its sleek form cutting through space like it was built for speeds that challenged the very laws of physics as the Empire understood them. Admiral HFY realized that everything the Empire thought it knew about this sector of space, about the humans, about the limits of technology itself, was about to change forever. The Endeavor continued its impossible acceleration, and Admiral HFY found himself questioning everything he thought he knew about space combat. His tactical displays showed the human vessel moving at speeds that should have been lethal to any crew, yet it maintained perfect control and showed no signs of stress or structural failure. "Communication from the human vessel, sir," reported the communications officer. "Put it through." Captain Sarah Chen's voice filled the bridge again, still maintaining that unnaturally calm tone. "Admiral HFY, we're aware of your fleet's position and your apparent state of readiness. We're not here to fight, but we are prepared to defend ourselves if necessary." The Admiral's scales bristled. How did they know his name? Imperial communications were encrypted, and their fleet identifications were classified. "This is Admiral HFY of the Imperial Dreadnought Sovereign's Fist. You are in violation of Imperial space. Identify yourself properly and prepare to be boarded for inspection." There was a pause, then what sounded suspiciously like laughter. "Imperial space? Admiral, you're currently positioned in the Sol system's outer defensive perimeter. You are the ones in violation here." Commander Thaxis looked at the navigation displays and paled. "Sir, she's correct. According to our charts, we are indeed in the system they claim as theirs." "That's impossible," Admiral HFY growled. "This system was marked for conquest. There should be no organized defense here." "Admiral," Captain Chen's voice continued, "I think there's been a misunderstanding. Our records show that an Imperial fleet entered our space 53 years, 4 months, and 16 days ago. They were offered the opportunity to leave peacefully. They chose differently." The bridge fell silent. Lieutenant Commander Valeris was the first to speak. "Sir, that matches the time frame of the missing Conquest Fleet Gamma." Admiral HFY felt cold dread settling in his stomach. Conquest Fleet Gamma had been one of the Empire's most powerful invasion forces, consisting of over 300 ships and some of their best commanders. The complete disappearance of such a force had been explained away as a navigational error or natural disaster, but the timing was too perfect to be coincidence. "What happened to our fleet?" he demanded. Another pause, then Captain Chen's voice returned, tinged with what might have been regret. "They were given multiple opportunities to withdraw. When they began bombardment of our outer colonies, we responded accordingly. I'm sorry, Admiral, but there were no survivors." The bridge erupted in shocked murmurs. The idea that 300 Imperial warships could be destroyed by an unknown species was beyond comprehension. The Empire had never suffered such a complete defeat. "Impossible!" Commander Thaxis stood up from his position. "No single species could destroy an entire Imperial conquest fleet. You're bluffing." "Sir," the sensor operator interrupted, "I'm detecting multiple new contacts." The main display shifted to show the surrounding space, and Admiral Zexhai felt his heart skip several beats. Emerging from what had appeared to be empty space were dozens of ships. Not the sleek design of the Endeavor, but something far more intimidating. These vessels were clearly warships, bristling with weapon systems and armor plating that seemed to absorb sensor scans. "Fleet identification?" he asked weakly. "Unknown designs, sir. They're not broadcasting any identification, but their power signatures are substantial." Admiral Zexhai counted 37 human warships now visible on sensors, with more appearing every moment. Each one appeared to be roughly equivalent to an Imperial cruiser in size, but their energy outputs suggested far more advanced technology. "Admiral," Captain Chen's voice continued, "you're now looking at a small portion of the Earth Defense Fleet, the same type of ships that engaged your Conquest Fleet Gamma. I want to be very clear. We don't want to fight you, but we're prepared to do so if you force our hand." "Sir," Lieutenant Commander Valeris whispered, "our fleet consists of 13 ships. If their capabilities match our lost Conquest fleet..." Admiral Zexhai didn't need the calculation completed. 13 Imperial ships against what appeared to be a superior force of unknown capability was not favorable odds, especially considering what had apparently happened to the much larger Conquest Fleet Gamma. But his pride as an Imperial officer warred with his tactical sense. The Empire had never retreated, never shown weakness in the face of any opponent. To withdraw now would be to admit that there were species in the galaxy that could match Imperial might. "Captain Chen," he said finally, "the Empire does not negotiate with primitives. You may have surprised one of our fleets, but we are prepared for you now." "I was hoping you wouldn't say that." The regret in the human captain's voice sounded genuine. "Admiral, I'm going to show you something. Sensor officer, target the asteroid at coordinates 77 Mark 32. Admiral Zexhai looked at the specified coordinates and saw a large asteroid, roughly 3 kilometers in diameter, floating innocuously in space about 50,000 kilometers from their position. "What are you—" The Endeavor fired a single beam of energy. There was no visible flash, no dramatic display of power. The asteroid simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there, a solid chunk of rock and metal that had probably existed for millions of years. The next moment, there was nothing but empty space and a few particles of dust. That was a demonstration using approximately 1% of this ship's available firepower, Captain Chen explained calmly. Our battle fleet carries significantly more advanced weapons. Admiral, I strongly recommend you reconsider your position." Commander Thaxis sat down heavily in his chair. "Sir, if they can do that to an asteroid..." Admiral Zexhai stared at the empty space where the asteroid had been. His tactical training told him that no known weapon could achieve such complete matter annihilation with so little apparent energy expenditure. These humans had technology that made Imperial weapons look primitive. But the thing that truly shook him wasn't the display of power. It was the casual way it had been demonstrated, as if destroying a 3-kilometer asteroid was no more difficult than swatting an insect. "Sir," the sensor operator reported, "the human fleet is maintaining position. They're not moving to attack, but all vessels appear to be at full combat readiness." Admiral HFY realized he was facing the most critical decision of his career. Orders from Imperial Command were clear. No retreat, no surrender, expand the Empire at all costs. But those orders had been written by commanders who had never faced an enemy like this. "Captain Chen," he said slowly, "what are your terms?" Captain Sarah Chen's response came quickly, but not with the harsh demands Admiral HFY expected from a victorious enemy. "Our terms are simple, Admiral. Turn your fleet around and leave our space. Return to your empire and tell them that humanity is not interested in conquest or expansion, but we will defend ourselves and our allies with whatever force is necessary." Admiral HFY felt confusion mixing with his fear. In 3 centuries of Imperial expansion, no species had ever offered terms that didn't involve either complete surrender or total destruction of the Imperial forces. "That's all? You're not demanding tribute, territory, submission?" "Admiral, we don't want anything from your empire except to be left alone. We've studied your species through intercepted communications and the records we recovered from Conquest Fleet Gamma. We know you've conquered dozens of worlds, enslaved entire civilizations. That's not who we are." Lieutenant Commander Valeris leaned toward the Admiral and whispered, "Sir, this could be a trap. No species gives up such an advantage without gaining something." But Admiral HFY was beginning to understand something that chilled him to the bone. These humans weren't offering mercy because they were weak or naive. They were offering mercy because they were so powerful that his entire fleet represented no real threat to them. "Captain Chen, may I ask a question?" "Of course, Admiral." "Your ship, the Endeavor, it's not a warship, is it?" There was a pause, then something that might have been amusement in the human captain's voice. "Very perceptive, Admiral. No, the Endeavor is an exploration vessel. We're actually scientists and researchers. The weapons you saw demonstrated are standard defensive systems installed on all human ships." Commander Thaxis made a strangled sound. "Their science ships carry weapons that can annihilate asteroids?" "Admiral," Captain Chen continued, "I'm going to share something with you that I hope will help you understand our position. When your Conquest Fleet Gamma arrived in our space 53 years ago, humanity was just beginning to explore beyond our own solar system. We were, by your standards, a very young, spacefaring civilization." Admiral HFY nodded, though she couldn't see him. "And now?" "Now we have colonies in 17 star systems, defensive platforms around 47 worlds, and a fleet that could, if necessary, sterilize every Imperial world we've identified through your own navigation databases." The bridge fell completely silent. Even the usual background hum of the ship's systems seemed muted by the weight of that statement. "However," Captain Chen's voice softened, "we choose not to. Humanity learned long ago that the cycle of conquest and revenge only leads to more suffering. We broke that cycle on our own world, and we refuse to perpetuate it among the stars." Admiral HFY found his voice with difficulty. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that we could destroy your empire, Admiral. We have the technology, the ships, and the strategic positions to do it. But we won't. Instead, we're offering you something no species has ever offered the Empire before, a chance to change." "Change how?" The Admiral's tactical mind was reeling, trying to process this completely unprecedented situation. "Your empire is built on conquest and subjugation. It's unsustainable in the long term, and it creates nothing but suffering for the species you control. We're offering to help you transition to something better." Commander Thaxis stood up abruptly. You want us to surrender our way of life? Our traditions? No, Captain Chen replied patiently. We want to help you find a better way of life. We've been monitoring Imperial communications for decades, Admiral. We know about the rebellions, the resource shortages, the growing unrest among conquered species. Your empire is failing from within. Admiral HFY couldn't argue with that assessment. Imperial Command had been dealing with increasing resistance movements, supply chain disruptions, and coordination problems across their vast territory. The constant need to maintain control through force was draining resources that could have been used for development and improvement. What exactly are you proposing? He asked. Trade instead of conquest, cooperation instead of domination. We have technologies that could revolutionize Imperial society, clean energy, advanced medicine, terraforming techniques that could turn barren worlds into gardens. We're willing to share all of this freely. In exchange for what? In exchange for the freedom of the species you've conquered. Help them rebuild their worlds, restore their cultures, become independent again. Transform the Empire from a force of oppression into a force for cooperation. Lieutenant Commander Valeris spoke up. Sir, even if we agreed to such terms, Imperial Command would never accept them. Perhaps not, Captain Chen acknowledged. But you'd be surprised how quickly attitudes can change when people see the benefits of cooperation over conquest. We've already been in contact with several of the species under Imperial rule. They're very interested in our proposal. Admiral HFY felt the ground shifting under everything he thought he knew about galactic politics. You've been in contact with Imperial subjects? Admiral, did you really think a species capable of making an entire conquest fleet disappear wouldn't have intelligence networks? We've been monitoring Imperial space for 50 years, establishing relationships, preparing for this moment. The Admiral realized that this conversation wasn't a negotiation. It was humanity revealing a plan that had been in development for decades. They had been preparing for the day when the Empire would come looking for their missing fleet. Sir, the sensor operator called out, we're receiving communications from multiple Imperial worlds. The messages appear to be broadcasts. Admiral HFY felt his heart sink. Put them through. The bridge speakers filled with voices speaking in various Imperial languages, but the message was consistent across all of them. The conquered species were declaring independence from the Empire. One by one, worlds that had been under Imperial control for decades were announcing their intention to join something called the Galactic Cooperative. How? Admiral HFY asked weakly. Admiral, Captain Chen's voice was gentle. While you were focused on conquest, we were focused on building relationships. The species you conquered don't hate you personally, but they do want their freedom. We've shown them that there's another way to exist among the stars. Admiral HFY looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. Fear, confusion, and something else. Something that might have been hope. For the first time in his 40-year career, he was seeing his officers imagine a different kind of future. Captain Chen, he said finally, if I were to recommend to Imperial Command that we consider your proposal, then you would be taking the first step toward transforming the galaxy, Admiral, and humanity would be honored to help you take that step. Admiral HFY took a deep breath and made the decision that would change the course of galactic history. Very well, Captain. I'd like to arrange a meeting between you and Imperial Command. It's time for the Empire to learn what humanity has to teach.